Welcome to the Newton Shredcast, coming at you live from our shop here in London. I'm Alex Harrington, your host, and this is episode number 5. We're going to be covering events and sessions, as well as products, and any other kind of general news that I've kind of come across in the last week or two. So I just want to say, first of all, a big thanks to Kean and Benny Hawes from Pre-Call, because they recorded this sweet jingle for us.
If you wanna slide jam or fancy getting tucked, wanna hook up with some skaters, get those fresh wheels scrubbed. If you're waiting for the next outlaw to erupt, you're in luck, cause Newton Shred tell us what's up.
So there's actually not a lot going on in the UK necessarily at the moment in terms of events. Obviously we all thought November was going to be pretty cold, pretty wet, and generally going to maybe even be like even worse with a bit of snow or hail, but we've actually been pretty lucky and there's not really been much of that going on. It's just been wet, so we've missed out on a lot of the really nasty stuff, to be quite honest. We just had a bit more mud, or the same amount of mud we're normally expecting. So first up, I'm just going to quickly touch on one of the races that happened in South America, in Brazil. It was Teutonia, and it's one of the longest running races I know of, and it's on a ridiculously fast hill where skaters go in speeds in excess of 70 miles an hour, or so I'm told, and I've perhaps even seen in quite a few videos actually. What I did think I saw was that Max Ballasteros, who I'm not even sure if he actually is Brazilian, but I know he's from South America. I believe he took first place, with Dubler taking second. So, stuff that's coming up. The next thing that really springs to mind is the Santa Cruz long distance skate, which is going to take place on the 12th of December. If I'm not mistaken, that's a Saturday, and the meeting point is at the Hammersmith Apollo in London. It's a distance skate in aid of a charity. It's recommended that people make, I think it's a £5 donation, and it will go to, I believe, 1 or 2 causes, one being a heart foundation for kids with, obviously hearts that have issues. So it's a worthy cause. We'll be donating some swag for the raffle and stuff, so if you want to get some, cheap stuff, maybe have a little gamble, why don't you go ahead and check out the event. After that, what I'm kind of thinking of is the New Year's Skate Bash, which normally takes place in, I believe, Gloucester or nearabouts, maybe even like Worcester, I could be mistaken. Waiting to actually hear back on dates and locations, but normally it's pretty early in the month. I'm not actually around usually in January, so I've not been to the last couple, but I've seen loads of photos and videos and people have been having a blast, even if they have been freezing their fingers and their toes off. Aside from that, in terms of London, I've not really been out much because I've kind of spent the last week being injured with a dodgy neck from dancing. That will teach me not to stretch before going out for a dance. But I have had a session every now and again. I think I've had like 1 or 2 wet sessions, but yeah, nothing particularly crazy. So hopefully this weekend I'll manage to get out and see some people. So yeah, don't forget that if you want to keep up to date with events and what's happening in the UK, Europe, and sometimes the world, make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. You can also subscribe to us on iTunes, and you can follow us on SoundCloud, or you can like us on Facebook. That's where this podcast / videocast, vlog, whatever, tends to be uploaded whenever we do it. So at the moment it's going to be on a 2-weekly or a fortnightly kind of basis. So I'm going to move on to, just a quick thing. Any Facebook events or links for the events that I have talked about, I'm going to include those in the show notes, so you can go back and you can find them, so you can go and say you're going to an event or whatever, or find more information out about them, or keep up to date if they do make any changes. So moving on to the next segment, I like to call it Hot Shit, and I get to talk to you about all the kind of stuff that's coming in and going out of the shop. And first on that list are the Venom Cobra Core Cannibals. They arrived last week, and we have both sizes, 72 and 76mm, in stock in all the Duros. I'll just grab a set of the 72 ADAs at the moment to show you. We got them, they're here. I've got a set of the 72mm 76A to try myself, but as it's been pretty hard to, 1, I've been injured, 2, actually kind of pin down like a dry day, or even it seems like a dry half day to go out and actually have a skate. I can't actually tell you what they are skating like yet, so I'll have to wait and see until I can get a good skate on them before I can actually give my opinion. My guess is, because there's that nice big core, nice urethane on it, super high rebound, obviously some roads it's not going to be ideal, they're going to be a bit too grippy perhaps, but on a lot of others they should have a fairly decent slide, very good wear rate, and yeah, we're just going to see how that goes. After that, we have some 187 killer pads in stock. I recently experimented with the Pro knees and actually quite like them. I've been going through most of the knee pad brands over the last few years, like Smiths, TSG. Obviously I don't touch G-form because there's like no hard cap, and I finally got around to the 187s, which is probably something I should have done quite a few years ago. The Killer Pros, or the Killer Pro knees, while they do look bulky when you just see the pads by themselves, they actually have a very deep cup, so they do envelop the knee quite a bit. So yeah, they're pretty sweet. I do recommend them. I've taken a few spills on mine and they've held up very, very nicely. So we have the Pro knees and the Pro elbows, as well as some of the Fly knee pads in stock. We don't carry all sizes, but we can get the ones that we don't carry pretty quick, if that's what you're after. Aside from that, we have the Earthwing Slide A wheel. Now you're thinking, well, that isn't anything new really. That wheel's been out for, I don't know, maybe coming up to 8 years now, is that about right? Well, we have the updated version, which is the same mould, the same urethane. There's nothing really massively different in terms of that front. But what we have is a new graphic, and that's not really important at all. What's actually important is the contact patch has a set of micro grooves on it. So instead of the crazy icy depth that you'd normally experience on the first few slides, they have much more predictable release into a slide and a hookup until you fully wear them in, and then they're the same predictable wheel that we all know and love. It's just that crazy iciness at first. Thanks to the micro grooves as well, you can actually take these to a bowl and you have less chance of them icing out on you. Although I would recommend going down to the softer Euro, the 95A. These are the 58D, and then which is basically like 104A. But we also have, if I can get them to the 95A. So obviously slightly softer, better in bowls and stuff, a bit better to cruise around on, still slide great. But yeah, then they have the harder version with the same micro groove contact patch. So this is basically just the updated version of the Slide A. Same great wheel you love and know, just a bit more predictable out the packet. So we actually have quite a few more items, but I'll leave those till the next episode. I don't want to flood you with too much stuff that's just come in because, hey, it's Christmas, obviously we're getting loads of new stuff. And the only kind of thing I will mention that is incoming are original skateboards. We're getting a restock on them now, and it's coming straight from the USA. We'll have a limited amount of arbiters and pintails. That's arbiters across the range, and most of the pintails. We'll have some accessories as well. So once they're in stock, you'll be able to get in touch with us and order those if you like. So also, yeah, I just want to apologise just in case you're hearing any particularly odd noises or anything particularly loud. I don't know how much this microphone is going to pick up. Downstairs there's a gym and they're having like a big refurbishing going on, so it sounded like somebody's drilling for our floor yesterday. Just wanted to explain that in case you're wondering. So I just want to move on to our next section, and I also have a really nice jingle for this. I don't know if it's going to play. Oh no, the internet is offline. Okay, so I'm just going to play it. Dishonourable Mentions. I just want to say a big thank you to Ben Sainer for composing that lovely jingle for us. It's much appreciated. I didn't actually know he was so skilled on the piano. He sent me a whole bunch of stuff that I could kind of pick from, and then we worked on a little one. I say we worked on it. I gave him like, oh, I'm going to get that one just a teeny bit faster, and did a really nice job. Thank you very much, Ben. It's much appreciated. So here we are now in the Dishonourable Mentions segment, and I was going to talk about a few things. I've been quite video heavy in the last few episodes, so I think I might try and spread that out a bit and actually give you something a bit different this time. First up, I want to give a shout out to Kook Culture. This is our friend from Southend, Alex Sukowski. He's a graphic designer and artist, and a lot of what he does he actually turns into like clothing and articles that you can use, like, you know, bags and other stuff like that. He also does a lot of custom work. So I don't know if you've perhaps seen Cammy's helmet and Bodhi's helmet. They're both on the kind of Kook team, as it were. Actually, James Allen as well, who are all three of those are on like Newton's family. They're also on the Kook team and have lots of lovely kind of custom made like helmet artwork, and they have lovely kind of clothing as well. Some of it's been custom made for them, like Cammy's skate trousers that he's been harping on about for a while. So I definitely recommend that. I'm going to put a link into his Instagram account. Amazing art. I've actually bought some prints from him before. I have like a really nice kind of hat and stuff as well. Definitely recommend checking out. Really, really lovely guy, and I completely support what he's doing. It's kind of thing, you know, if you actually stick to something and you get behind it, you take those first kind of steps, you can really kind of build something, and it's very important that, you know, you kind of get on that as early as possible, because obviously, one, any mistakes, that's kind of stuff you learn from, but two, every day you don't do something makes it actually harder for you to eventually get into it. So, excuse me. So there's a pretty cool article I read. I believe it was on Wheelbase. I can't see the link here, it's blurred out a bit. But it's from Amanda Powell and why she kind of like fell in and out of skateboarding, as it were. So you might remember her name. She's been sponsored by a handful of brands over the last few years. You might have seen her videos or photos around. But she kind of felt that she's being used more as like a marketing tool, as it were, and decided to kind of take a step back. And the article really is her just kind of going into the process, or like what kind of led her into that kind of decision, and why she kind of wants to take a step back and kind of reintroduce herself to skateboarding, minus all that kind of other stuff. And it's a pretty interesting read. I highly recommend reading it, because a lot of people are very focused on, like, you know, being sponsored and all this and that. They don't really tend to know what it actually means, and it's quite interesting to actually have a proper viewpoint from somebody who's very involved, or has been very involved in that kind of side of the business, as it were, because it is a business, unfortunately, and then actually just wants to kind of take a step back and literally just, you know, have fun skating, which really is like the essence of it. So there is one video I'm going to plug today, and it's called Drug Groms and a Hint of Ben. It was, I believe, mostly filmed by George and edited by himself, Jorge Higgins that is. You can find it on YouTube. Had appearances from quite a few London locals, including Max McCarry, Luca James Barton, Ruben Loosemore, Fred Shepherd, Newton's family, and a whole bunch of other people. So I definitely recommend checking that out. And yeah, it's good fun. It will kind of show you what people skating in London have been up to kind of like during the fall. It's pretty cool. And then it's also really cool to see Ben in that video, because he's like progressed massively over the last few years. I remember when he basically used to stand on his board and his feet would be hanging off either edge of the platform pretty much. It was so scary to watch, and to kind of see him in that video is really cool, actually. I kind of think I should maybe skate with Ben a bit more. It's been a while. So there's another cool article I read. As many articles as I can find that are worth, or I think are definitely worth a read for most people, I will be sharing those with you. So if you don't like to read, suck it, I don't care. It was written by Max Dubler, and it's on Skatehouse Media, and it mostly addresses like the kind of perils and safe practices one should take when skating open roads. Now, obviously, we're not talking about skating massive open mountain roads here in the UK necessarily, but a lot of the same stuff still applies. You know, being wary of, like, one, your conditions, the surroundings, obviously, like, people driving, you know, either people following you down to, you know, give you a lift back up, or other people on the road. A lot of it is definitely worth considering, and I definitely recommend giving it a read. If you don't have like an older rider in your scene who's kind of been around and been through it all, it's a very good resource to kind of have. A lot of it's kind of common sense, but a lot of it's common sense for people who've obviously kind of been through some rough experiences of like people getting hurt, or like close calls and near misses with motorists. So I do recommend reading that. Another thing I came across was Bones. The legendary Bones bearings have announced they're doing an extended inner race bearing, which is basically a built-in style bearing, and they're calling them Bones race bearings. So obviously, no doubt Kevin Reimer has kind of been championing this within Bones as well. It's just like such an obvious thing to do. I've also seen that Rad have a version of basically the same style bearing coming out, and that's kind of one thing I really wanted to touch on, is that you have a bearing design which, to be honest, I'd only seen in two places when I came into skating properly around 2008. Number one was the built-in bearing, designed and patented, I'm not sure he's patented it, but sold by Chris Chaput, the guy who also is behind ABEC 11, seemingly jet skateboards, liquid trucks and all this. And then I think I saw SMB, or like some generic kind of bearing manufacturer, doing a slightly similar version of that extended inner race bearing. Now, I'd have to say that Chris is definitely quite the innovator. He's put a lot of stuff out there that you may not actually be aware of, has actually pushed the scene forwards, as it were, in terms of like equipment and standards. And I just want to say, like, even though loads of bearing companies are out there, they're basically kind of doing this design, it's really Chris that kind of championed it and brought it to not necessarily the masses, but a lot of skaters in the know realise that is such a simple concept yet so effective. And while it's good to see it expanding everywhere, I just want to say thank you very much, Chris Chaput. I really hope you're getting some money from all these other bearings which are mimicking effectively what I believe is kind of your design. So I think that's it for this week. I'm going to try and get out and skate a bit more. My neck is pretty much back to normal. Obviously there's been some pretty nasty stuff going on in the news lately, and it doesn't really matter, like, you know, where it happens. Just want to say that, you know, the loss of innocent lives is shitty no matter where. So yeah, just remember, you know, don't be scared, keep doing what you're doing, don't let the terrorists win, skate, have fun and spread the love. Fuck the haters. Peace out. And I just want to say a big thank you to Vi for helping me film this episode. It's much appreciated. Bit of a master of the lighting and the camera. Thank you, Vi. And look, he's doing a funny face behind the camera. All shy. And I think that's it now, really. Hopefully I'll see some of you at a skate session soon. And if not, yeah, until next time. Have a week.